Hi, Karen Curry Parker here with a special Mercury Retrograde report for you. So we are in the middle of a pretty big retrograde cycle right now. Right now we have Venus retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Pluto retrograde, and Mercury goes retrograde on Thursday, June the 18th. So let's talk for just a minute about what is a retrograde cycle. Anytime you have a retrograde cycle, it's not that the planet's going backwards. It just sort of looks like it is because of the nature of the orbit and the way we see the orbit of the planet. A retrograde cycle astrologically is an opportunity for us to dive deep on the inner planes, to go inward. It's really kind of a pause, and certainly in the intensity of the overarching themes of what we're dealing with on a planetary level and obviously on a collective level on the planet, it's good that we have a little bit of a pause. We're in a massive cycle of destruction, and it's a good destruction. It's a vital and important destruction. We are collectively being supported in looking at all of the infrastructures that we are living in, and we're asking ourselves, is this fair? Is this just? Is this a reflection of the value of each and every precious human being on the planet? Is this infrastructure serving the idea that every human being is valuable because they exist, and that's the only thing they have to do to qualify for that value status? They just have to be born, boom, and that's it. The destruction that's happening is important. It's creating space, and it's creating space for us to begin to build something that is going to move us solidly by the end of the decade towards a world of equitable, just, sustainable peace. That's where we're headed. Of course, you know, the big question is how are we going to get there? Hold on, I gotta move the tripod. How are we going to get there? And that's really up to us. We're going to get there. But the question is, are we going to get there consciously and deliberately and ultimately with peace and intention? Or are we going to get there by taking everything down in a way that's going to hurt? That's going to hurt too much. That's going to be too destructive. That's going to potentially put people at risk who don't need to be at risk. We can make these changes, albeit not without the destruction. We have to dismantle what's not working, but we can make these changes easier for us, more in the flow of what's possible in the story of humanity if we're clear about where we're headed. So we have sort of over here this one big giant overarching cycle that's about taking everything apart, and we have over here this sort of undercurrent of the secondary cycle that's saying, okay, what are we going to build? Where are we headed? Now that we're creating this space of potential, what are we going to put into this space? We're not ready to build yet. That's the piece that I really want you to understand, because I think sometimes we're so entrained in the doing part of the human story that we don't value the pause, but we need the pause. We need the pause because in order for us to build in an easier way, in a more aligned way, and honestly in a faster way, we need to be clear about what we're building. And the first step in getting clear about what we're building is building the energy around the intention of what we want to build. So these pause cycles in the midst of the intensity of this overarching destructive cycle are vital, because they allow us to begin to dream about what else is possible. They allow us to begin to conceptualize and to use language that becomes the template for the embodiment of love and compassion and contribution and transforming where we are right now in a vital, abundant, loving, sustainable, just, and peaceful way. So our retrogrades, we're in this cycle, in the Human Design Creative Quarter, we're in a cycle that is all about language. We're going through all the gates of the throat center in this creative quarter. We are being calibrated in the middle of this quarter with the sun moving through the gate 15, the gate of compassion. We're exploring how do we build with compassion in the world. And then Mercury goes retrograde on Thursday. And so anytime Mercury goes retrograde, it makes communication and the use of language a little dodgy. We have the potential for us to misunderstand each other, for us to be confused. And when Mercury goes retrograde in the gate 39, which is a gate that I like to call the gate of recalibration. It's an energy that's part of the abundance flow in the chart. It's an energy that connects us ultimately to the energy of faith and source. It calls on us to harness our faith as an aspect of our creative power, but it's also potentially a provocative energy. It's an energy that's going to poke at us when we encounter things that are out of abundance, that when we encounter things that are out of alignment with source and the true potential of who we are. So it promises to be potentially uncomfortable in the sense that it's, we're going to get provoked during this cycle. We're going to get uncomfortable in those places where we're not in alignment with the true nature of abundance, faith, equitability, justice, sustainability, and peace. And it's interesting to note that when peace is the ultimate outcome, how we have to stay in alignment with peace is part of that creative process. And it's probably going to be a little tricky during this retrograde cycle to not take things personally, but to instead recognize when we're in this cycle that if you get provoked, the provocation, the purpose of that provocation is not for you to react, but for you to, in this pause cycle, go, I'm triggered here. Why? What's going on? Where is there something in me that is out of alignment with faith, abundance, sufficiency, support, justice, peace, equitability? These are vital pause button questions that I want you to take with you as we go into this cycle, to not let the provocation cause you to slide into reaction, but to instead say, this is a really powerful opportunity for me to explore on the inner plane of my existence and my own sense, my own thinking, my own connection to source, that maybe there's something here I need to look at where I'm needing to recalibrate who I am on the inner plane so that who I become on the outer plane is a reflection of the faith that I have, the trust that I have that source is providing, and the knowingness that I can embody that we are moving towards a world of peace, a world of justice for everyone on the planet. I think it's July the 2nd, Mercury goes retrograde and moves out of the gate 39 into the gate 52. The gate 52 is a gate that gives us perspective. I like to call it the gate of perspective. If you can imagine that you are a bird flying over this lake, we have eagles that fly over this lake a lot, and you're flying over this lake as a bird, you're seeing the big picture before you decide where you're going to focus your energy. This 52 energy brings us that bigger bird's eye view perspective where we are able to see in a bigger way the picture of what's going on. This might end up being a pretty revelatory time. We might begin to see the bigger picture about why things are unfolding the way that they're unfolding and what that really means for us in the journey of our growth and our evolution. This is a perspective that isn't gained without stillness. This is not emotional energy. This is energy that is potentially adrenalized, but it's not energy that we're supposed to really be acting on. We're just simply supposed to be flying around and looking and gaining that perspective, because from that perspective, once we get into a more forward moving cycle, when we have more momentum, say that fast in the morning, then we are able to, with greater clarity and focus, take the right actions, take the right steps, have the right alignment, the right calibration to create peacefully in the direction in which we're intending. We can't do that if we don't have perspective. If you lose perspective and you drop into the reactivity and you don't see the bigger purpose of where we're headed, and you see these little events that keep repeating themselves right now as independent events that are triggering you, instead of looking at what's the bigger picture of what's unfolding here, we risk losing our focus on where we're headed. Again, we are headed in the next decade towards a world of equitable, just, and sustainable peace. We are moving into a world where every child will have what they need to fulfill their purpose, where everyone will be well fed, well cared for, loved. It's going to be a very different reality when we're done with this process of dismantling things that block that manifestation. Get a big perspective, and that perspective comes from being still, from taking a pause, from taking a breath before you say something, and remembering to use the power of your language very, very carefully. Words incite, words inspire, words destroy, words build, words create. And the more we are consciously harnessing the power of our language, the more we're moving ourselves towards the manifestation of the world that our hearts, the heart of humanity, really wants to be living in. That's it. Don't sign any big papers while we're in this cycle. Don't make any big legal agreements. Take your time. Double check your work. Expect things to fall apart first before they come back together. And trust that everything is going to end up okay. We're going to be okay, but we got to do the work. Have a good one.